Kia were already onto a winner with their EVs, but then the EV3 came along and it's had countless awards. People love it. In fact, I tested one about a year ago and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So the big problem with this car is I think I want one. So 1 year on, we have the EV4, a car that unsurprisingly sits above the EV3 in terms of size, but is the first electric saloon Kia have made. It's their longest range EV, and it brings something a little bit different to the table. Right then, so the EV4, in Kia's lineup, this was the replacement for the Ceed. Now the Ceed has now been replaced by the K4, which is a very cool looking car, but that's an ICE car. This is an EV, of course. The EV4 is surprisingly quite a European car in that it was developed for European tastes, it was tested on European roads, and it's even built in Europe. It's built in Slovakia. At least the hatchback version is. The Fastback is still built in Korea. Okay, let's have a little look at the design. It's a very cool looking futuristic thing, isn't it? It looks pretty mean. If, when I was young, I was able to draw cars, which I couldn't, this is probably what I would have drawn as an idea of a futuristic looking car. I think it looks very cool. Very little overhang at the front. The wheelbase is pretty big, which means that you've got plenty of space inside the cabin and you don't have a silly massive bonnet. You also obviously don't have a grille at the front because it doesn't need one. What you do have under here are the active air vents that can open to cool the battery if it needs to. I'm really not keen on these 17-inch alloys. The design looks very odd when it's driving along, I think. I can hear my mum in my head saying, don't get black cars, they really show the dirt. And yeah, sorry about that. I love these lights at the back, really modern, quite slabby, you know, which I really like. There aren't very many curves on here, but it's unmistakably Kia. This is their design language that they call Opposites United. Opposites United sounds like a really crap football team, doesn't it? This is the standard version, this is the hatchback, but weirdly, they also make a fastback version. And the fastback one is a weird looking beast. Tell me if you feel like vomiting in your mouth when you see it. The fastback is only available in the higher trim level, and it costs an extra £1,500 more than the hatchback. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's built in Korea, whereas this is built in Europe. A lot of people that see the fastback version really don't like it. I actually do. I think it's very cool. But the fastback version does look, I don't know, it's got a kind of a Picasso vibe going on. I keep looking at it and seeing different shapes and weirdness. I find it quite a challenging design. This is far more conventional, I think, especially in the black. There are other colours that I think probably suit this much better. It's 1,860 millimetres width, 1,485 millimetres height on the hatchback. The fastback is a little bit shorter, 1,480. The length is 4,430 on this hatchback and 4,730 on the fastback, so it's a little bit longer, the fastback. As you're watching this, you'll probably find it looks massive, but it's not actually that big. It's about the same footprint as a Nero. In the hatchback, it's a 435 litre boot, and that's 490 in the fastback. If you put the seats down, then you have 1,415 litres in this and 1,470 in the fastback. But people don't care about litres. Let's get out the measuring tape. With the seats up, you've got a depth of 80 centimetres, a width of 103. And up to the parcel shelf, you've got about 42. There is also quite a deep space down the bottom as well, actually. You've got about a 34 centimetre depth down there. It is cavernous in the fastback. You've still got space under there, although it's not as well finished as the hatchback. And with the seats down to my driving position, about 177 centimetres depth. Bit old school with the air trim. Just a manual boot. I don't know whether it's just this one, but the boot doesn't close very well. No frunk. This will tow a maximum of 1,000 kilograms. You've got two different variations you can get in terms of battery size. This is a 58.3 kilowatt hour battery in the standard range, and then you've got the 81.4 kilowatt hours which you get in the long range version. So this will do 273 miles of range, and the long range will do up to 388. It's actually 362 miles though if you get the GT-Line or GT-Line S, because it has the bigger 19-inch wheels. So it's a bit frustrating, really. It will do up to 388 miles, but you can't do 388 miles in the top spec version. The only way of unlocking that 388 mile range is by having the smaller wheels, but you can't get the smaller wheels with the GT-Line or GT-Line S. You can only get it with the Air trim. That's really annoying. And you can't get a heat pump in the Air trim. You can only get that in the GT-Line S. And you can't get vehicle to load in the Air or the GT-Line, only the GT-Line S. So it's just really annoying, isn't it? Okay, it's time for a little heat pump rant. I love heat pumps, and it really frustrates me that Kia just hide them in the top trim. Hyundai put heat pumps in all of theirs. I don't know why Kia don't. The heat pump is what makes my e-Niro so efficient. Even on cold autumn days, it still does fantastic range, and that's because of the heat pump. It's annoying that if you want a car as efficient as you can possibly have, you just can't get it unless you get the top GT-Line S. But if you get the top GT-Line S, you have to have 19-inch wheels, which are less efficient than 17-inch. So I understand that Kia's argument is, if a heat pump is £900, you're never going to save £900 in terms of efficiency, are you, by having a heat pump? But what a heat pump does give you is like an extra 10% range on cold days. So that could be the difference of 25 miles by having a heat pump. So it's really annoying. Now, I appreciate that it's still a really, really good range that this car has. And most people probably don't care. Most people probably don't want to pay an extra £900 for a heat pump, do they? But I do. I love efficiency. Anyway, I'll die on this hill. It's only a 400-volt architecture, this car. It's not 800 volts like the EV9 and the EV6, which is a shame, really. But it's still, I suppose it's fast enough. It's 29 minutes to 80% with the standard range, and 31 minutes to 80% with the long range. I don't really love the charging port being in this position. It's a bit awkward on some chargers, but I like the fact that the CCS bit here is a proper little hatch instead of a annoying flappy bung. Now, although this is absolutely fine, and you know, if you're doing a long journey, you've got hours of driving out of this, and then if you stop for 31 minutes, that's fine, isn't it? You can get something to eat, stretch your legs. But I do think for people that can't charge at home, having an 800-volt architecture enabling 18 minutes to 80%, that makes an EV more viable for them. It makes it far closer, not close enough perhaps, but far closer to the petrol station experience. Now, obviously, you know, I drive EVs and I have done for years and years, and I would always say, well, it's best to charge when you're doing something else. So stop, charge, get some lunch or whatever else. But, you know, that doesn't suit everyone. So although it's a pretty good charge speed, I would like to see 800 volts in this, or at least an 800 volt option. Make it an option like the heat pump. So the interior of the EV4 it's a very nice place to be. It's pretty open, really. You've got this center console which sticks out at the bottom, so it's not a completely flat floor at the front, but it's well positioned, and a couple of cup holders down there, and even in the low spec it is wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Up here you've got a pretty small bit of storage, actually. I'm quite surprised how little that is, considering that it goes all the way down, of course, this center console bit. So yeah, tiny bit of storage there, some space in there for stuff as well. But overall, I think, you know, just as the EV3 was pretty tasteful inside, I think this is as well. And despite this being the low air trim, you've got some interesting different plastics going on, so it doesn't feel particularly cheap, at least on all of these bits at the top here. Once you get to the center console, a pretty naff looking plastic, but it's fine. I mean, the thing with all these plastics like that is that as a so-called reviewer, I come in here and I go, oh yeah, there's a bit of a scratchy plastic and stuff like that, but you know, it is hard wearing, and that's probably what you want, isn't it? What there is a really interesting kind of pattern on the door here, and kind of a funky bright green colour, I suppose that is, here, and a nice padded section there. This little green line follows up here as well, and you've also got some funky LED lighting in here as well, so that makes the whole cabin feel a little bit funkier than perhaps you would expect of a car. I don't want to say as cheap as this, because it's not cheap, but a low-end trim. This all feels much more premium than a low-end Kia Niro, for instance. It's got a lovely feel, and it's interesting. It looks interesting, which I like. The seats have this quite unusual ribbed effect for your pleasure, and they're really comfortable. They're lovely, lovely seats. And I just love fabrics anyway. I'm not a big fan of leather particularly, so this really does it for me. I love it. Being the low trim, this does have manual adjustment. Again, I'm fine with that. It is nice, I suppose, being able to set your seat preferences to a profile and that kind of thing, which you get in the GT-Line trim, but manual adjustment's absolutely fine, isn't it? Arguably quicker. It's arguably quicker for me to just do that and go forward like that instead of there's a vanity mirror, but there's no light. Down here you can see you've got two USB-Cs. You've also got a little button here if you want to change it just from power mode to USB plus power. So it's really good that these Kia EVs allow you to select what sort of mode the USB is on. And most of the time you're probably just going to want to plug in your phone or something like that and then have it connected on CarPlay, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you just want to charge something and you don't want to connect it actually via USB, so that allows you to change it. The glove compartment is a pretty good size. What's also surprising in this, it being the air trim, you've got 2 levels of heated steering wheel and 3 levels of heated seats. So that's all good. So despite it being a low-end trim, I don't think it really feels it. I think it's a very well judged cabin. It's a lovely steering wheel. I like the fact that it's pretty curved at the top. It feeds through your hands nicely. I don't like it when they're too sort of hexagonal or whatever at the top. I love Kia EVs because of the regenerative braking. I've got it on level 3 at the moment, which is the strongest. Well, I say it's the strongest. No, actually, if you hold down on there, you get iPedal. iPedal is one pedal driving. It means you really don't have to use the brake apart from an emergency situation. So it's a great way of driving. And what's quite neat is that you can activate iPedal, but at different levels of regenerative braking. So if you don't like it stopping too harshly when you take your foot off the accelerator, then you can change that with this. So yeah, you can have level 2 iPedal, level 1 iPedal, whatever. Or you can have it on this strongest level, which is a bit more, I think it's a bit worse for passengers, I think, because it is a bit more jolty. But if you're driving, I think it's a really good way of driving, actually. Hold down on this to turn off the speed limit warning. Easy to use cruise control on here. That's how you set it. Click this to set it, and then you've got the distance you can change there. That keeps you in your lane, and you can increase the speed using this one here, and you can start and stop it just pressing it down. And you can set this to whatever you want. Kia have set this so it goes to the driver assistance stuff. So if I press that, then it goes straight to this screen here, because I think they know that a lot of people just end up turning off some of this stuff. This tells me everything I want to know. I get my efficiency up here, I've got my range, my battery percentage, my regen braking level, and I've got my odometer. And changing it, you've got the different modes on here that you can change as well. So all of this is so clear and simple. I really love it. Okay, let's talk about this area here, because this is the bit that often gives me a little bit of a problem. So first of all, you've got this little infotainment screen up here. I say little, but I mean, it's quite widescreen. But, this I think is quite neat. I like this. I know the trend these days is to have a big iPad stuck there with no physical controls, and thankfully this doesn't do that. You've got a proper volume button there. And then you've got physical controls for the heating, which is something that I really, really like. So you can click up and down for the mode, and for the fan speed, and then you've got the temperature as well for both the passenger and the driver. So all of that is really good. What I don't like so much is this little section up here, and I moan about this every time I get in a new Kia, but you've got this little screen here that is obscured from view by your hand when your hand's on the steering wheel, so you've got to move to the left to see all of these controls here, like auto and AC, and put on your demister and all the rest of it. So that I find it a bit irritating. I would rather have that down here as well, but I'm not going to complain too much because at least there are some physical controls. Here's your infotainment screen, and it's very smooth. That all works really well, and I like all these big icons. I think it's pretty slick, really. And there's quite a lot going on in here, actually. But first of all, if you click on these buttons, you've got a shortcut that goes straight to home. You've got a map, which goes to mapping, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Search, which is to find a place, which is powered by Google, so that's good. And then you've got media, which goes to your radio and Bluetooth and Amazon Music. What else? YouTube, SoundCloud, Sounds of Nature, and CarPlay, all that. The star button goes to whatever you want to configure it to. So on here we have sort of EV kind of stuff. This at the moment, on here, this little graph tells you how much is being used for climate control, electronics, and all that kind of stuff. And you've got energy consumption history. And just looking at this, you can see actually how efficient this car has been on all these drives here. Look, 4.8, 4.6, 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So that's really impressive, given this one doesn't have a heat pump. You've got battery conditioning, which you can activate. That means that the battery gets itself nice and warm, so you get high charging speeds. And then there's lots of other stuff. Plug and charge is really good. That means if you go to Ionity, you can just plug in and it will start charging immediately without having to faff around with any cards or apps and whatever. And then you've got other options in here. There's too many options to go through. I'm not going to bore you with all of this. Oh, and then setup, sorry. Yeah, and then setup goes back to this screen where you can change all your settings and all that. So that's all good. Right, something I do on every test is going to Edinburgh. Not literally, of course, but just on the map, just to see how it handles that. Okay, so let's click on search and type in Edinburgh. Okay, so it's nice it's powered by Google, although it's not actually Google Maps. Set as destination. I don't know how much of this Google powers. I don't think it powers the EV routing side of it. It would be good if it did, but I don't think it does. So what this is going to do, it's going to tell me from here to there the fastest and recommended routes, and including charging stations. So this is telling me that I'm going to have to charge 3 times. Which ones has it selected? It selected Ionity, Eon, and BP Pulse. I would rather it didn't select BP Pulse, to be honest, but I'm not sure I can do very much about that. Does it let me remove that? I don't think it does. Because I would like, really, to be able to say, don't ever take me to BP Pulse, even though that's a big station. There's 24 chargers there, but I don't particularly like BP Pulse. And it doesn't work on my Electroverse card. So anyway, I would like to be able to change these things, but you can't. Annoyingly. Well, not as far as I know, anyway. Tell me if I'm wrong. But the main thing is that you have the confidence. If you select somewhere, it will tell you where you have to charge to get to it. So that's good. So that's that. So it's good that you've got YouTube, I suppose. If you're charging, then at least you can do that. Entertainment, you've got to connect with the Kia Connect app, and then you can do games and all that sort of stuff, which I would never do, particularly sports, which I would never do as well. Relax mode. Optimizes a vehicle's interior for relaxation, which is quite an interesting thing. I don't really see the point in that. I don't know if anyone ever uses these things, but I suppose it's good that it's there. Vehicle diagnostics, all that kind of stuff. It's all good. What I would like to see would be a dog mode, but this doesn't have it, unfortunately. One of the most interesting things about the EV4, and they've added it to the EV3 as well, is it's got ChatGPT built into it. Anyone that's had any experience with really most EVs, or most cars in fact, is that the voice commands are terrible. You have to say exactly the right thing. So this, having ChatGPT, hopefully will make that a little bit better. I should be able to speak in a natural way, so let's give that a go. I'm going to press the button. Can you tell me how to get to Edinburgh?
Do you want to be guided to this place?
Yes. That worked, okay, I think. It's doing it. It's doing something. Requesting connected routing. I think it's doing it.
Starting route guidance.
Okay. The route will be provided including EV charging stations. So that's good. But that's not really a good demonstration of what ChatGPT does. So, you know, let's say I didn't know how to do something in this car. Let's see if it can work that out. Yeah, so I was wondering, how do you turn on the heated steering wheel?
To turn on the heated steering wheel, locate the button on the steering wheel or dashboard, often symbolized by a heated steering wheel icon, and press it.
Right. Well, I don't have that option in the EV3.
The Kia EV, the 3rd of May, not have a heated steering wheel feature. Please check your vehicle's manual for available options.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. If you have more questions about your Kia or need assistance, feel free to ask.
How do I stop it? Stop. Okay. So, oh God, why does it ever stop? It's just still on
I'm
screen.
here to help.
Yeah.
What would you like to know?
Please stop.
This feature is not supported.
Right. Okay, finally got rid of it. Does this model of EV4 have vehicle to load?
I'm sorry, but I don't have information on the specific model's features.
Okay, thanks. I really want to find a quiet car park to film some content for a car review. Do you know where I could go?
Please say the line number of the location you want to go to.
1.
Do you want to be guided to this place?
I think having ChatGPT in a car is a good thing because maybe there'll be things you want to ask, while you're driving along, and then you'll be able to go, yeah, brilliant, let's ask that. In the GT-Line S, you can see we've got vehicle to load. Vehicle to load is a fantastic thing, and it enables you to plug anything in that has a normal 3-pin plug, and that's where the socket is, just under the back seats. You've also got an external adapter as well that you can use. So, sitting in the back of the EV4, it's very comfortable. I've got massive leg room. I mean, that's the thing I'm really surprised about. It's just how much leg room I've got. It's enormous. Yeah, loads. And I've got this set to my driving position. I'm 5'11". Is it 180 centimetres? I can never remember. And it feels quite open and airy in here, especially because there's a light headliner. So that's really good. And although there's no sunroof, which would be nice, it still feels pretty open. So we've got over a fist of headroom. It's pretty good. So you've got 2 USB-Cs. You've got one on either side of the front seat. Little hooks up here as well. The head restraints are also very comfortable. So the back of the centre console gives you a little bit of storage at the bottom and a couple of vents. And it reminds me of something, and I can't think what it is, but it might be Stop It and Tidy Up, which is an old cartoon back when I was young. It's a brilliant looking face it's got here. Rear passengers, if they get car sick, they're not going to like these chunky seats very much, because ideally you want to be able to see through a little bit more. It's something that my daughter complains about quite a lot. And you've got storage for maps or whatever people put in these things these days. A tiny, tiny little bit of storage in the door card at the back here, which is barely worth thinking about. The centre armrest has a couple of cup holders, and that's about it. That bit really sticks out, I don't know why. So it's pretty good. Now I can't put my feet right underneath the seat. I can a little bit, but not too much. Now on this side, I don't think I'll be able to at all. No, I can't at all on this one because this is too low down. I'd lifted my driver's seat up a little bit. And then sitting in the middle seat test, it's not too bad. It's not recessed like the other seats are, but it's not too bad. As I always moan about, the middle seats in every car these days are pretty pointless, really. So that's how it looks in the back. And yeah, for a long journey, I think I'd be pretty happy in here. It's good. Just I'm really surprised at the amount of legroom. Far better than the EV3. Obviously, this is a slightly longer car than the EV3, but it is just impressive just how much space there is here. So here's the Fastback. And headroom is a little bit less. You can see it's less than a fist, maybe just a fist. It's a small fist. So headroom isn't so good in here, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Better than, for instance, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. I remember that being far more slopey at the back. It certainly feels plusher in here, although these days I would like to see some sort of controls in the back, really, for heating. Disappointing it doesn't have that. But you do at least have a sunroof, which obviously isn't open at the moment. So this is a GT-Line S. That's how it looks in the back. You have heated rear seats and this kind of leather effect, still ribbed. So the top spec doesn't look that different, to be honest, but you've got different colours and everything, but most of the materials are really the same. So the one I'm driving is the cheapest one that you can get. It's the Air trim and it's the short range, or the standard range they call it. Although even though it's standard range, it's still reporting as 255 miles of range at 95% battery, which is arguably more than enough for most people. It's just started beeping, so the first thing you're going to want to do is hold down on the volume button and turn off the speed limit warning sound, because otherwise it beeps at you. 1 mile an hour over the limit and it'll start beeping. So my everyday driver is a Kia e-Niro, the old one, and I've just been driving a Niro EV. And the Niro EV is the more modern version, of course, came out a few years ago, it's not new. But even that is much more refined than the e-Niro. And now getting into this EV4, it just reminds me just how much of a step, big step, Kia make with their EVs each time. Just it's so much more refined than the Niro I've been driving. It has a real smoothness to it. And although the roads are bumpy, which they always are in England, it just feels pretty quiet, really. It's a pretty quiet cabin. Whichever trim level you go for, you get a 150 kilowatt motor. It's 283 newton meters of torque. They're all front wheel drive. You can't get all wheel drive or rear wheel drive, sadly, because I do like rear wheel drive. The cabin is pretty quiet. You do get a little bit of road noise coming through, but it feels a bit deadened. It's difficult to describe, but it's pretty good, really, with the soundproofing. Right, I'm going to go into sport mode and just overtake this tractor. Bit of a loss of grip there because it's a bit of a wet road. So this one's actually the fastest of the lot. This is 7.5 seconds to 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. That goes all the way up to 7.9 seconds for the higher trim levels. Feels really nice. There's a lot of pep. The press release said sprightly, and I think that's a pretty good description. All of these electric cars that do 7 point whatever seconds to 62, I always find that they're, that's more than enough for me. It's all quite a tight turning circle. And this Air trim lacks a HUD, which is a shame, but it does also show just in front. You don't see the map, unfortunately, but you do get some directions at least. The visibility is really good. I'm not getting any massive blind spots particularly. No real body roll. It feels good to drive. So, the Kia EV4, I think it's a really good all-rounder. You get a pretty decent amount of stuff in it, in the Air trim, and for 34,695, that's not bad really. But if you want to get the top spec, it does start mounting up. It gets expensive quite quickly, and then it starts to get difficult for Kia, I think, because the Chinese are coming, they're already here really, with a lot of stuff for not much money. The MG IM5 is 800 volts, so it charges like lightning. It's got a much longer range than this, and that is 44,995. But putting tech specs aside, I just feel like this is such a decent all-round package. And I think that a Korean-designed, European-built EV like this, I think it's going to sell like hotcakes, especially if the EV3 is anything to go by. I really want to spend a little bit more time with it. A couple of hours isn't enough. So I'm dying to take one of these down to Italy on a road trip, but I'll save that for another video. So thank you very much for watching this review. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.